Hey, this is Chris here for Guitar.com at Gardiner Houlgate Guitar Auctions in Wiltshire, with a guitar that B.B. King once described as a holy relic of the Delta blues.
In our next auction, we're selling a 1933 National Duolian Resonator guitar, and the historically important thing about this instrument is that it was owned by Delta blues legend Bukka White. Bukka White used the guitar for approximately 3 decades of his career. B.B. King, his younger cousin, remembers the guitar in Bukka's house as early as the 1940s. And then he owned it certainly until 1976 when he sold it to his UK friend and photographer Keith Perry. The guitar obviously does have quite a few battle scars. On the back there is the old headstock break and sort of a ad hoc repair throughout its life. There's a lot of wear on the fretboard itself. There was a technique that Bukka White used to do called spanking the baby, which he did to basically impress the ladies while he was playing, and he used to bang the guitar on both ends, and because of that, that also has caused some wear and tear, and he was quite an aggressive player. It was essentially why this guitar was his instrument of choice, because it had the durability to withstand his style of music. There's a set list taped to the side of the guitar, which Bukka put there himself and penned himself, and in quite wild writing, which I think was fueled by some alcohol-filled performances. But it just adds great provenance. It's written on a piece of hotel paper as well, so it was obviously during times where he was touring in the States and Europe and the UK, of course. The guitar itself is quite difficult to value. Of course, any instrument has its own intrinsic value itself. A National Duolian guitar is a desirable model in terms of the single cone resonator guitars, especially the 1933 examples where the guitar went through a few changes that do make that specific year quite revered by the collectors of such instruments. Add to that the historical significance, having been owned by Bukka White, one of the founding fathers of the style of music, the Delta blues slide playing. It makes it obviously an incredibly difficult thing to value. It's not just a guitar. It's not just been owned by a legend, but it's a piece of American blues history as well. And there's very few things that you can compare to come up with a price range. So it's a sort of instrument that could, in the auction, really take off and sell for a lot more than we are initially anticipating it to sell for. It is amazing how playable the guitar still is. It's been kept in a playing state all its life. When the guitar went to its new owner, Mr. Perry, in 1976, it was obviously playable then, and Bukka White was very keen for his guitar to be used for decades more. When Keith received the instrument, there were a few tweaks made to make sure that it could be played in the coming future, and the vendor has always been keen to put it into the hands of essentially very, very good musicians within that style of music, and let it see a new lease of life. Artists such as Mark Knopfler has had the guitar in his hands a few times. Eric Bibb, of course, had an entire album that he wrote, which was inspired by this guitar. And in fact, there's various videos and documentation of him playing the guitar itself, and used the guitar itself to record Bukka's Guitar, the title track of the album. And that's always been, what the vendors wanted of the guitar, and he certainly wants that in the future. You know, you can always understand that this guitar is going to go into a collection. It could go into a museum, you know, a private collection, who knows. But you'd always like to think that the guitar can, even though it is historically important, you know, it's a very valuable instrument. You would like to think that it can be used, you know, essentially how the guitar was made. It was made to be played, and it still does play very well, you know, as we've demoed this time round.